They called her Amara the Scarecrow. Her uniform looked like it was borrowed from a skeleton, oversized, torn at the collar, and always stained with something she couldn't name. Her sandals? One brown, one black. And her tribal marks? Sharp, deep, like someone had tried to scribble on her cheeks with a razor. Amara Benson didn't talk much in school. She had no friends, no lunch, and no hope of blending in. While others walked with perfume and pride, she walked with dust and dignity. Not because she liked it, but because that's all she had. She sat at the back of the class where the fan didn't reach and the windows hissed insults with the wind. Everyone avoided her like she was contagious. Even the chalkboard seemed to ignore her presence. But no one did it worse than Jason Carter. Tall, handsome, with a fake British accent that came and went depending on who was watching. The girls loved him. The boys copied him. The teachers excused him. But Amara? To Jason, she was a daily joke. That Monday morning, she walked into class as usual, late. Her skirt had burnt holes from standing too close to Mama Rose's fire the night before. She dropped her nylon bag quietly and sat down. Before her bottom touched the chair, Jason's voice sliced the air. Ah! Class, be careful-o! Ebola has entered again! Amara the mosquito is back! Laughter exploded. The teacher was writing on the board. He paused, smirked, and continued like nothing happened. Amara said nothing. She kept her eyes low. But Jason wasn't done. Wait, let me ask, Amara, is it true you're marrying your grandfather's goat next week? Abby, is it the chicken this time? More laughter. Guys, this girl is so ugly, even her shadow runs away from her at night. Amara's throat tightened. Her hands trembled slightly, but she didn't respond. Then he walked up to her desk. Bold, confident, evil in disguise. He leaned close enough for her to smell his cheap cologne. Look at you. You really think someone like you can ever become anything in life? You're too ugly to be anything more than a roadside hawker like your grandmother. You hear me? Just marry that goat and stay in the village. Silence. Then laughter again. Even the teacher let out a short chuckle and said, All right, Jason, that's enough. But it was too late. That sentence, it didn't just break Amara. It killed something inside her. She stared at the chalkboard, her face calm, but her soul screaming. Her ears buzzed. Her chest was tight. She wanted to vanish. At home that evening, she dropped her bag beside the door and sat on the kitchen floor. Mama Rose was fanning the fire, roasting maize, her hands burnt and blackened from years of hard work. Papa Elijah sat in the corner, eyes closed, murmuring prayers as if the air could hear. Mama Rose looked at her and said, They said something again, didn't they? Amara didn't speak. Mama Rose dropped the fan and sat beside her. She pulled Amara into her arms, rubbed her back slowly like she was soothing a wounded lion cub. Amara broke down. Silent tears, shaking shoulders, no sound, just pain. I'm tired, Mama, she whispered. I'm really tired. Mama Rose kissed her forehead. Wipe your tears, my baby. You're not ugly. They just can't see what God hid inside you. Then Amara looked up. Eyes swollen, but glowing. I'll show them. One day, I'll show them all. I don't know how, but I will. I'll become someone they can't ignore, and I'll never let anyone talk to me like that again. And in that tiny kitchen, with smoke burning her eyes and roasted maize on her skirt, Amara Benson made a promise. Not to cry anymore. Not to beg. Not to explain. Just to succeed. Loudly. Quietly. Powerfully. The laughter didn't stop after that Monday. In fact, it grew louder, crueler, more organized. Every day felt like a war zone. And Jason Carter? He was the commander of humiliation. At school, he tripped Amara by mistake and pretended to help her up while snickering with his gang. On the street, if he saw her pushing a wheelbarrow of roasted corn for Mama Rose, he'd shout loud enough for the whole junction to hear. Hot corn! Hot embarrassment! Come and buy depression, freshly roasted. Children would laugh. Adults would pretend not to notice. Amara's face remained blank, but inside, something was dying slowly. And something else was being born. She started staying up later at night. After helping Mama Rose roast and sell maize by the roadside, she'd sit under the flickering yellow glow of a kerosene lantern, bent over her books. While others were gossiping or watching TV, Amara was forcing complex math into her brain with tired eyes and burnt fingers. By JSS 3 second term, something strange started happening. Teachers began to pause when they marked her scripts. Wait, Amara got the highest? She corrected the question, sir. Said there was an error in the formula. This girl is something else. But they didn't say it to her face. Not yet. She was still the charity case. The girl with nothing. Only her English teacher, Miss Olivia, ever pulled her aside one day after class and said, "Don't mind them, Amara. The ones who laugh at you now will one day beg to work under you. Keep reading." Those words stuck like glue. At home, Papa Elijah prayed louder. Mama Rose smiled more often. Every test she passed was a tiny victory against the voices in her head. But Jason wasn't done. Oh no. One day, Amara was carrying a tray of roasted corn to deliver to a customer across the school gate. Jason saw her. He was surrounded by 3 girls as usual. He laughed out loud and said, "Our future governor is now hawking corn. Make sure you campaign well. Oh, give me 2 cobs and I'll vote for your failure." Then he snatched one corn and bit into it without paying. The girls laughed. One of them mimicked Amara's walk. Amara stood still, tray shaking in her hands, face frozen, heart on fire. But she said nothing. She turned and walked away. That night she didn't sleep. She cried into her pillow, not because of the insult, but because she was tired of holding it in. She wanted to scream. She wanted to fight. But fighting Jason would only make her look like the mad one. So instead, she fought with her brain. She attacked her books like they were the enemy. She started writing words she didn't know before, learning big grammar, practicing speeches in the mirror when no one was watching. She didn't have the luxury of dreams, but she was building a reality that no one could destroy. In class, the boys still laughed. On the street, the whispers still followed her. But Amara walked differently now, not with pride, but with quiet purpose. She no longer looked at Jason, and that made him furious, because somehow this ugly village girl was beginning to outshine the star boy. And in a school where beauty was currency, Amara was starting to shine with something no one could touch. And Jason? He could feel it, and he hated it. But Amara didn't care, because she wasn't fighting to win Jason's respect anymore. She was fighting to become someone who wouldn't need it. Someone too far above to hear noise from below. Jason's words used to burn like hot oil on open skin, but now they bounced off her like water off stone. The scholarship came on a Wednesday. Rainy, muddy, and cold. The kind of day that made roasted corn sales slow and depression quick. Amara was returning from school, her shoes soaked, her books wrapped in nylon. As she reached the wooden gate of their small compound, she heard Mama Rose shouting from inside, "Amara, blood of Jesus, come here, oh! Amara, angel of our time, God has remembered us, oh!" For a second, she thought something bad had happened. She dropped her bag and ran inside, only to see Mama Rose jumping up and down in their narrow kitchen, waving a soaked envelope with government stamp. "See it! They sent it! It's not a dream." Amara took it with shaky hands, opened it, and saw her name, not in the rejection list, not as a mistake, but in bold, capital letters. Benson Amara Chidera, full federal scholarship award winner for outstanding academic excellence, resilience, and leadership potential. She read it 5 times before she believed it. Mama Rose fell on her knees and started praying, mixing English, Yoruba, and tongues. Papa Elijah opened one eye, nodded, and whispered, "My prayers are not in vain." For the first time in her life, Amara Benson was chosen, not out of pity, not because someone felt sorry for her, but because she earned it. The next day at school, it didn't take long for the news to spread. Jason Carter was the first to react. He walked into class with a face like someone just stepped on his ego. He clapped slowly, mockingly, like a performer at a circus. "Wonders shall never end. Our Madam Mosquito has finally buzzed her way into scholarship. Clap for poverty that refused to die." The class roared with laughter. Someone shouted, "Amara for president of Beggars Association." Another added, "This won the government pity project, oh." Jason pulled out a sachet of water, placed it on her desk like an award. "Your first trophy, presented by the Ministry of Hunger and Suffering." More laughter. But Amara? She didn't flinch. She folded the letter, placed it back in her bag, looked at Jason, and said calmly, "You laugh now, but one day I'll hire people who won't even let you walk through the same door as me." The laughter died a little. Even Jason paused. The way she said it, calm, confident, scary, it hit somewhere deep in his ego. He rolled his eyes and walked away, but not before muttering, "Keep dreaming. Goat." 3 months later, Amara stood at the gates of Brightgate University. Her whole life in one bag, wearing a long skirt, a borrowed blouse, and shoes she polished until the holes disappeared. The university looked like a palace. Tall buildings, fancy fountains, rich students with rolling suitcases and soft lives. She felt like an insect crawling into a mansion. She didn't know how to speak like them. She didn't know what air fryer meant. She had never tasted pizza, never used a real smartphone. She shared a hostel room with 3 girls who rolled their eyes anytime she spoke. They laughed at her thrifted clothes, her native soap, and her habit of praying before eating Gary. But Amara didn't care. She stuck to the library like a second home. She skipped outings. She recycled notebooks. She used nylon bags to protect her only pair of shoes during rainy days. She had one goal: don't go back empty-handed. One afternoon, while trying to print an assignment in the faculty office, she ran into Mrs. Bianca Rowe, a visiting lecturer from the UK. The woman paused and said, "You remind me of someone I used to be." Amara didn't understand. She just bowed politely. The next week, Mrs. Rowe invited her to a workshop on leadership. She saw something in Amara, something quiet but unshakable. She took her under her wing, gave her secondhand clothes, helped fix other things, showed her how to speak with confidence. "This world won't give you space, Amara. You take it," she told her. "Let them laugh, but make sure one day they spell your name with respect." And that night, while lying on her bunk bed with holes in the mattress and cockroaches dancing on the wall, Amara whispered to herself, "One day I'll walk into a place so high, Jason Carter will need permission just to breathe in the same air." Though Brightgate University was beautiful, on the outside, tall buildings, clean lawns, air-conditioned lecture halls, but for Amara Benson, it wasn't a dream. It was a battlefield. She struggled to fit in like a square stone in a round jar. The students around her were different. Girls who changed wigs like phone wallpapers. Boys who wore designer shoes just to attend tutorials. Amara couldn't relate. Her only pair of jeans was 3 years old, and her blouse had a tiny tear she stitched every Sunday night. She used a small button phone while her classmates took selfies with iPhones. When it was time for group work, they avoided her like an unpaid debt. She's too quiet. She looks like she doesn't bathe with hot water. She's probably here on some government orphan package. Nobody said it to her face, but she heard the whispers, loud and clear. The monthly stipend from her scholarship came, but it was like raindrops in a desert. After buying books, paying hostel dues, and sending a little back home to Mama Rose, she was left with nothing. Sometimes nothing meant drinking Gary without sugar for dinner. Sometimes nothing meant soaking clothes in water overnight because she couldn't afford detergent. Sometimes nothing meant pretending she was fasting just to skip a meal. She applied for part-time jobs, anything that could keep her going. By her second semester, Amara was juggling 3 things at once: lectures by day, library assistant job in the evening, and cleaning an office at night. She barely slept. Her back ached. Her eyes were always red. But her grades? Still shining. People started noticing. One lecturer said during class, "Some of you dress rich but think poor. There's one student here, No makeup, no Instagram. But if you enter exam hall with her, you'll leave confused. Amara didn't smile. She didn't even look up. She had trained herself to ignore both insults and compliments. One Saturday, after cleaning an office till 11 p.m., she came back to the hostel to find her roommates laughing. They had gone through her cupboard. They displayed her native soap, her old wrapper, even her small bag of crayfish Mama Rose sent. Is this a student or a village caterer? Ew! Who still uses black soap in 2023? I beg she should go and act Nollywood poor girl Biko. They laughed like witches at a festival. Amara said nothing. She packed her things quietly, walked to the common room, and slept on the floor that night. No pillow, just her school bag. She stared at the ceiling for hours, shivering in her thin wrapper. And in that silence, she whispered, "Suffer now. Enjoy later. I will not break." One morning, while dusting shelves in the university library, she found a book titled The Power of Silent Strength. She opened it, and inside was a sticky note that read, "Be so good, even your enemies whisper your name with respect." She kept that note in her wallet. Every time she wanted to give up, she looked at it. She missed home. She missed roasted corn smoke and Mama Rose's rough hands pulling her close. But Amara wasn't going to fail. Not after all the hunger. Not after all the shame. Not after all the times Jason called her a waste of space. So she wiped her tears, washed her face in cold water, and went back to class. Not to belong, but to become. Because for Amara Benson, every step forward was a slap to her past, and she was just getting started. A few months later, Amara had always known suffering, but nothing prepared her for her worst experience at Brightgate University. It happened in her third year. Just a week to exams. She had spent the whole night cleaning an office, came back to campus by 5 a.m., and rushed into class by 7:30 with uncombed hair and a broken sandal held together with rubber bands. It was a presentation day, one she had forgotten about entirely. The lecturer, a strict, bitter man who took joy in embarrassing people, looked her up and down and said, "Miss Benson, you want to be taken seriously dressed like this? Step forward. Let's hear the village girl speak." The class giggled. Some students took pictures of her behind her back. One even whispered loudly, "Is this how to dress for greatness or beg for pity?" Amara walked slowly to the front, palms sweaty, head pounding. She hadn't slept, she hadn't eaten, and she hadn't prepared. Her lips trembled as she began to speak, but halfway through her first sentence, the screen behind her shut off. Her PowerPoint didn't load. The lecturer rolled his eyes. Typical, nothing to show. Sit down. Amara stood frozen, her knees weak. People laughed. One classmate muttered, "So much for scholarship brilliance." It was a moment so small to others, but it crushed something deep inside her. That evening, she locked herself in the toilet stall at the back of the female hostel and cried like a child. She cried for the shame. She cried for the hunger. She cried because it felt like her past was chasing her, no matter how fast she ran. For the next few days, Amara disappeared. She didn't go to class. She didn't go to work. She didn't touch her books. She just lay on her hostel bunk, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, wondering, why am I still trying? What's the point? What if Jason was right? It was a dangerous silence, the kind that comes before someone gives up entirely. Then, 3 days later, a letter arrived. An actual letter. Not a text, not an email. A handwritten note from Mama Rose. It came folded in brown paper, smelling of firewood and dry pepper. It read, "My precious Amara, I had a dream last night. You were standing on a stage. People clapped for you like you were queen. But you didn't smile. I asked why. You said, 'Mama, the journey was too hard.' My child, I know it's hard, but stars are born in darkness. Lions are raised in hunger. You cannot stop now, not when you've come this far. The fire that is burning you now is the same fire that will refine you. Let them laugh. Let them mock, but don't let them win. You promised me you'd finish. You swore you'd break the curse. You said you'd return to this family with your head lifted high. Don't disappoint yourself. Remember who you are." You are not poor. You are powerful. Mama Rose Amara didn't even finish reading it before the tears came. Hot, loud, healing. She hugged the letter to her chest, rocking herself like a baby. That night, she didn't sleep again, but not from depression this time, from fire. She sat up and read every note she had missed. She watched YouTube videos on her borrowed laptop. She reworked her project presentation. She drank Gary and didn't flinch. She knew now this pain was not punishment. It was preparation. Amara Benson, once humiliated, now rose again, like a phoenix from ash. With Mama Rose's letter in her wallet and a fire in her chest, she decided, if I must crawl to graduation, then I will. But I will not quit. Then Amara didn't just bounce back. She soared. Like a phoenix set on proving every doubter wrong, she returned to campus not just with renewed strength, but with a mission. While others hit clubs and got lost in campus gossip, Amara hit the library like it owed her money. While friends chased flings and Friday night vibes, she chased deadlines and dreams. Even the ones who once mocked her began to whisper, she's different now. That girl doesn't play. She walks like she owns the future. And they were right, because by final year, Amara Benson wasn't just surviving, she was leading. She scored the highest CGPA in her department, walked up the graduation stage in a borrowed gown, and was announced best graduating student. The hall erupted in applause. But Amara, she just smiled softly. Her heart was with Mama Rose, who couldn't make the journey but had sent a voice note the night before. Go make me proud, Phoenix. Make the ground shake when you walk. Then came Nova Axis Group, one of the top tech finance giants in the country. She didn't have a godfather. She didn't have a big name. But she had brains, fire, and hunger. They gave her a chance as an intern, just one spot out of 3,000 applicants. And Amara? She turned that tiny crack into a golden doorway. Life at Nova was tough. Deadlines, targets, corporate sharks. But to Amara, it was heaven compared to the battles she had fought in silence. She showed up early, stayed late, listened more than she spoke, learned like her life depended on it. While others partied every weekend, she quietly built her career, block by block, brick by brick. Some colleagues laughed at her. Come out, nah! One drink won't kill you. Why so uptight? But Amara would just smile and say, I didn't fight to escape poverty, just to flirt with failure. She was focused, disciplined, dangerously intentional, and slowly, the same people who mocked her started watching her, admiring her, respecting her. Because Amara wasn't just an intern anymore. She was a rising storm. She never begged to be noticed. She just did the work, quietly, consistently, excellently. But one day, the work roared louder than her silence. It started like a normal Monday at Nova Axis Group. People dragging coffee mugs in bad moods across the office. PowerPoint slides flying like paper planes. Managers barking orders like drill sergeants. Then came the Project Helix announcement. A billion-naira fintech partnership. Only the top 5 executives were expected to be in the room. It was high stakes, high level, way above her pay grade. But the CEO had seen Amara's analysis reports. Detailed, bold, visionary. She was just an intern, but her ideas were beating that of actual managers. That morning, the CEO called a meeting and shocked everyone. I want the intern girl there. Gasps, frozen stares. One of the senior managers even whispered, what does she know? She just came out of poverty. They told me her story. What's she going to contribute? Corn roasting strategy? But Amara walked into that boardroom anyway. Not with pride, but with clarity. She'd studied every line of the proposal. She'd seen a loophole no one else had noticed. So, when the lead strategist stumbled midway through his pitch and the room began to spiral into panic, Amara raised her hand. Everyone turned. Half of them sneered. The other half pitied her. Excuse me, sir, but I believe if we restructure the onboarding funnel and align the user data path with the partner ecosystem, the conversion rate could jump by at least 28% in the first quarter. Silence. Then the CEO leaned forward and said, repeat that. She did, calmly, clearly, like someone born for that moment. 1 week later, Nova Axis signed the biggest deal of the year. And the CEO announced the success of this deal wouldn't have been possible without Amara Benson. Effective immediately, she's no longer an intern. Promotion, permanent role, corner desk, official company car. That night, Amara stood in her new office, alone, overlooking the city lights. Her phone buzzed. A message from Mama Rose: "The world tried to burn you, but you, my daughter, became the fire." Amara smiled. Her eyes watered. She had done it. The girl they mocked was now the woman they respected. 7 years later, back in the village, the girl they mocked is back, but she's no longer a girl. It had been 7 years since Amara left the village. 7 years since the corn smoke clung to her uniform, since the whispers called her government pity. 7 years since she swore to herself, "One day I will return with my head held high," not in anger, but in power. And now she returned, not with noise, not with pride, but with purpose. A sleek black SUV rolled into the village road. The children paused. The market women froze. The old teachers at her former school peeked through the staff room window. Was that Amara? Amara Benson? She stepped out, dressed in soft silk, with heels clicking like destiny had finally arrived. Her smile was calm, her eyes deeper than before. But her spirit? Untouched, still grounded. In just a few weeks, she had changed everything. A new 3-bedroom house rose from the same spot where her grandma's hut once stood. Fully furnished, painted in cream and peach, Mama Rose's favorite colors. She didn't stop there. Amara walked into her old secondary school, looked the same principal in the eye, and paid for 10 full scholarships, all for students who reminded her of herself. She spoke to the school assembly with steady grace, her voice clear, her presence magnetic. "I didn't come to show off. I came so you'll never again laugh at someone because they are poor. Because one day, they may be the very person you'll wish you knew better." The hall went silent. Some teachers wiped their eyes. A few students clapped. Others simply stared in awe. But then someone whispered it to her. "Jason isn't around. He's a big boy now, working in the city." She nodded, emotion flickering only slightly. She hadn't seen him yet, but somehow she knew that day would come. And when it did, she wouldn't be the girl begging to be seen. She'd be the woman choosing what she sees. That evening, Amara sat outside with Mama Rose. Her head rested on the old woman's lap. The stars blinked quietly above them. "Mama, we did it." "No, my child," Mama Rose whispered, running her fingers through her hair. "You did it, but you carried all of us with you." The fireflies danced. The village was no longer the place of her pain. It was now the place of her rebirth. 3 years later, Amara had climbed silently, strategically. No shortcuts, no noise, no scandal. She was now regional manager of Nova Axis Group, a title she wore like a tailored suit. Her office? All glass, warm lights, subtle fragrance of jasmine in the air. Everything screamed class, power, and intention. Photos of her awards lined the far shelf. A custom plaque on her desk read, "What broke her only shaped her better." Staff respected her. Clients trusted her. Even the CEO often said, "That Amara, she's a silent storm." That morning began like any other. Emails, meetings, coffee. She was finalizing reports when a junior staff knocked. "Ma, the new janitorial recruits are here. Should we send them to their duty stations?" She gave a calm nod. "Send the names. I'll assign floors myself." A few minutes later, the list came through. She scanned through indifferently until one name froze her hand. Jason M. Adewale. Her breath hitched. Could it be? Her eyes narrowed. She pressed the intercom. "Kindly send the new janitor on level 3 to my office now. Thank you." A few minutes later, the glass door opened. He walked in, older, slightly bent, dull in the eyes, dressed in a faded blue janitor's uniform. Jason. Still tall, but not proud. Still familiar, but no longer shining. He paused, stunned by the office. And then he saw her. Their eyes locked. Her tribal mark. That line's on her left cheek. The one he used to mock in school with cruel jokes. Recognition hit him like thunder. His lips parted, but no words came. "Amara?" She didn't flinch. She didn't even stand. She leaned back in her seat and crossed her legs slowly, her voice velvet smooth. "Good afternoon, Mr. Adewale. You may begin by cleaning the windows." Jason's hands trembled. This wasn't just power. This was poised revenge, served with silence. He fumbled for his cleaning cloth. The same boy who once laughed at her torn uniform, now cleaning her glass window, watching her reflection in it, a reflection of everything he wasn't. Amara didn't smile. She didn't mock. She simply turned back to her laptop. Because real success doesn't shout. It just walks past the people who once laughed. The room was still dead silent. Jason's cloth moved slowly across the window pane, but his eyes never left Amara. Every polished surface reflected a truth he couldn't ignore. She had risen. He had fallen. And the girl he once mocked was now the woman writing his next paycheck. He finally spoke. His voice was low, strained, like it hadn't been used in years. "Amara, I'm sorry." She didn't respond. Her fingers kept tapping lightly on the keyboard. "I know I don't deserve your time, but I need to say it." He turned fully now, cloth hanging limp in his hand. "Back then, I was proud, foolish. After school, things came easy at first. I got a good job, money flowed, girls came. I thought I was untouchable." His voice cracked. "But pride, it blinds me. I lost my job after a fraud scandal I didn't even cause, but I was too arrogant to plead. My wife left when the money ran dry, took my son with her. Everything disappeared, Amara." He swallowed hard. Amara looked up, finally. Her eyes met his, unreadable, but not unkind. "Why did you laugh at me back then?" she asked softly. Jason's eyes filled with tears. "Because I thought we don't belong in the same class. I thought life would continue to be cruel to you. But today, cleaning your window, it broke something inside me." A silence settled, thick, heavy. Then Amara reached for her drawer. She pulled out a sealed white envelope and walked to him. He flinched slightly, expecting dismissal. But she simply said, "This is a formal offer. Driver position, company car, monthly salary, housing benefit." Jason's mouth parted, but no words came. "I don't need a janitor," Amara said, voice calm, "but I could use a loyal driver." Jason sank to his knees. I don't deserve this." She gently stepped back. "Maybe not, but someone once believed in me when I didn't deserve it either." She placed the envelope on the desk and returned to her seat. "Take the job or leave it. But either way, what's behind you is done. I'm not here to humiliate you. I've outgrown that." Jason bowed deeply, silent, humbled, shaking, because this was not just forgiveness, it was grace. Months passed. Amara's name was no longer just printed in company emails. It now graced magazine covers, business panels, and Forbes-featured interviews. She had become the face of resilience. And this time the world watched. The night of the media gala red carpet. Flashing lights, high society. The hall buzzed with power. CEOs, dignitaries, international investors. And in the center of it all, Amara, radiant in an emerald gown that matched her calm fire. Jason stood by the car door in his sharp black driver's suit. He held it open as she stepped out, head high, smile poised. But before she walked the carpet, she turned to him, eyes soft. "You'll be okay, Jason. I see the change in you." He looked down, his voice steady. "Because I saw the change in you first." She gave a tiny nod and walked forward into the lights. Inside the gala, the host stepped up to the podium. "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we honor a woman who turned scars into stars. From a remote village, mocked and overlooked, to a national voice of change. Please welcome Regional Manager, Mentor, Philanthropist, Amara Nwoke." Applause shook the walls. Jason, standing backstage with the other drivers, wiped his eyes quickly, before anyone noticed. She walked to the stage with calm elegance, took the mic. "I dedicate this honor to two people," she began, voice rich and steady. "To Mama Rose, for seeing light in me when the world saw only dirt. And to the past, because without its pain, I would never have fought for this future." Her eyes swept the crowd. Somewhere in the far back corner, she saw Principal Adeyemi from her old school. He had tears in his eyes. And as the crowd gave her a standing ovation, Jason quietly opened the back door of the sleek black SUV. waiting like a quiet sentinel. 15 years later, the dusty village school that once echoed with mocking laughter was now decorated with banners, flowers, and excited voices. It was the 15-year reunion of the graduating class, a get-together to celebrate how far they'd all come. But truth be told, only one name filled the air: Amara Benson. She funded the event. She sponsored the renovations. She gave scholarships to brilliant but poor students. She even built a new science block, in silence, without seeking praise. As the crowd buzzed, a sleek black SUV pulled up. The door opened, and stepping out from the driver's side was none other than Jason Carter, in a crisp suit and confident stride. But he didn't head straight to the hall. Instead, he walked to the other side and opened the door for her. Amara stepped out, graceful, regal, yet simple. Her tribal mark, once a stain of mockery, now glowed like a badge of honor. Jason smiled at the crowd and said loudly, so everyone could hear, quote, "Life has a way of serving cold dishes, especially to those who once served mockery. I was once Amara's janitor, then her personal driver. But she didn't stop there. She rebranded me. She gave my life direction, purpose, and dignity. Today, I serve as her chief logistics officer." A stunned silence swept through the crowd. The boy they once praised now stood tall because of the girl they once mocked. Inside the school hall, during the vote of thanks, the principal announced with tears in his eyes, open quote, "This school stands today because one of you never forgot her roots. We are proud to officially rename this school Amara Benson Academy." Close quote. The hall exploded in applause. Some former classmates wept, but not from joy. Shame hung heavy in their throats. One by one, they came to her, needing jobs, referrals, school fees for their children, or just mercy. And Amara? She helped who she could, with grace and a warm smile. Because now they understood. The name they once mocked was now the name on the school gate. Hello, besties. Let me tell you something real. Just because you're a rich kid today doesn't mean life won't flip the script. Don't you ever look down on someone because they don't have money, fancy clothes, or a powerful surname. That girl with worn-out shoes, that boy with a torn backpack, they may be your boss tomorrow, or worse, your only hope. Treat everyone with respect, because life, it has a funny way of serving justice, cold and clear. So next time you feel tempted to laugh at someone's struggle, remember Amara, and don't forget to, like, comment in your language, share this with someone who needs to hear it. I love you, besties. Stay kind. Stay humble. Bye for now.